And welcome back to Clear Skies Retirement with Jay Kirkwood at Secure Financial Management. Online, you can find Jay and the team at retire210.com. This is a show where we sit down and talk through some of the questions you might have when it comes to your retirement. Jay, how are you today? How's your summer going so far?
So far, so good.
So I think the last time that we talked, you were talking about building that swing set and all that stuff in the backyard for the kids, and this is going to have to play a big part of the kids go out in the backyard and do that swing set thing.
Yeah, well, I stay in the air conditioning.
I love it. All right. Well, we're here to talk about you and your retirement, and maybe the kids that you talk about are your grandkids, and you want to spend some time with them. Well, when it comes to sitting down and talking about the finances of retirement, that is what it's all about, is what you want to do in retirement. And we're kind of going to start there today because there's something that has happened in the last couple of years in retirement, and that is this. When pensions were around, people retired around the age of 62 because it was kind of simple. You're 62, you got the gold watch, you fired your pension, you got your Social Security, you had your savings, the three-legged stool, as they used to say, and That's away right. You would go. Well, pensions went away, and guess what also happened? The age that we have that we're retiring at now has moved up to 65. And it's because probably we need a couple extra years now to try to make up for what that pension used to do. We need more years to get that income going. It's not coming from our employer anymore. Now it's coming from us. So, Jay, let's talk about that a little bit. Guaranteed lifetime income, the stuff that's got to be there. I need my light bill. I need my rent or my mortgage. I need my car payment. I need my utilities. I need all that. And boy, I need that every month. Don't touch that money. And that money's got to go up as I go through my retirement. Right. Where does that money come from? Where does that bucket come from that we talk about?
Yeah, it's a great question because, the topic comes up a lot. You just mentioned, hey, people used to retire and they had their pension and maybe, a bit of savings, Social Security as well. And a lot of people that come and see us, that's a conversation they have. Well, it's different from my parents. They were able to retire with this pension. I don't have that. Or maybe they've got a small pension because it went away while they were working, right? But it's not going to sustain them, right? And the interesting thing with this is there's two parts to it, okay? So the first part is, and I've talked about this on the show before, is a lot of people that come and see us have done a great job saving in their 401k, investing, being aggressive, growth mindset, right, with their investments. And maybe they've been that way for 30 or 40 years while they've been working. And there's a real shift that's got to go on from grow to what's more important than grow is this money lasting me however long it is I'm retired, 20, 30 years plus, okay? So there's first kind of got to be a mind shift change. The second thing is educating yourself with somebody who actually knows how this all works as to how you can recreate pension income for yourself, or pension-like income is what I should say for yourself. Because a pension, to most people's surprise, Social Security, pensions that used to come from work, they're all what's called an annuity. Right, that's what they are. Annuity is just something it's a stream of income that will last for your life or a period of time, right? That's all that means. And there are ways to recreate that type of income, but most people don't understand how it works. I'm going to say something that will probably upset a segment of the industry. Your CPA does not know how this works. Let me just tell you, right? Because anytime an annuity comes up, it may or may not be the right thing for you, but 9 out of 10 CPAs say, don't do that. And if you ask them why, I've just heard they're bad, all right? And they don't know how they work, right? Okay. It may or may not. We do far more managed money. We do annuities here and there when they're right. It's not the majority of what we do, but it's important to educate yourself on it. And this is, I think I've told you this example before, right? We had a lady who retired. When did she retire? End of 25, right? She had done a fantastic. She actually got laid off, right? So she was 62. She didn't really want to retire. She wanted to work till 65. She had done a fantastic job saving, been very diligent with that. Had a couple of $1 million, came to us and got a very generous severance package. So, did pretty well in the whole process of things anyway. And financially, she's fine, right? She could retire. She wants to stay a bit more active. So she came to us and she talked to us, talked to 3 or 4 other guys and came back and was like, hey, great, I want to work with you guys. I'm like, okay, fantastic. And, we kind of start moving the money, start the process. And she said, this is the only thing, right? I don't want to do anything in annuities. I was like, all right, fine. Like, whatever you want to do, no big deal. So we start having kind of meetings around how do you feel comfortable investing, and a theme that came up over and over and over with her. So she's single, right? She's just she's got herself, and especially to ladies that we help, that is a concern for them. They just say, hey, I've got me to count on. I don't have anybody else. And ladies, side note, if you're in that position, being married may not have necessarily helped you. Because we see that plenty as well, right? Okay,
you're okay.
You might be better off that you're by yourself, all right? And so I think she had about $2 million and like done fantastic job. And she said, I don't want an annuity. I was like, all right, fine, no worries. And then we get to, hey, I'm very worried about stability in my retirement. I'm only going to have one Social Security check. I don't have a spouse who has, another Social Security check that's going to come in, or a spouse that has a pension or another 401k. I've just got me. And, my Social Security check, I know it's, that's kind of like just in your account every month. That's going to be kind of automated. That's not going to be enough, right? And I'm going to make up numbers here because I don't have the data in front of me. She needs $6,000 a month.
Okay.
And her Social Security is going to be $2,000. So, what we're short $4,000 there. Hey, she's got good portfolio here. And she said, yeah, look, I don't mind that investment, but I can't take the volatility I used to have when I work. That's kind of keeping me up a little bit at night. And, as she's talking more and more about this, what does she need?
She needs an annuity.
she needs some guaranteed income.
Yeah.
And she's already said, I don't want it.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, what do I do here? Okay. And so we get to the meeting where she's done a risk assessment for us, and now we've got to talk about how we're going to invest it. And so this is the way I started the meeting. And I said, hey, one of the first things you said to me is, I don't want an annuity, okay? And whether you do one or not, like, irrelevant to us. It's about what's the right thing for you. And I said, tell me a little bit more about why you don't want one, just so I can kind of get on this, get in your mind, like something kind of like, where's this leading? She's like, I don't know. My brother's a CPA, and he just said, don't do one.
Okay.
And I said, all right, now I've got some insight into it. And I said, okay, this is what I would like to do, and I want to ask your permission for it. Can I walk you through what an annuity does, right? Educate you on it, show it to you, and explain it all to you. It'll take about 15 minutes. And I am just going to kind of educate you on it, give you an example of what it looks like, and then I'm never going to discuss it with you again. Unless you want to bring it up and we talk about it, we'll never talk about it again. She's like, yeah, absolutely. No worries. I really don't know what kind of it's all about. And so I walked her through it, and essentially it's, hey, if you put in X, it's going to pay you Y for the rest of your life whenever this is triggered. And we'll still be able to invest a lot of your money. Just now we'll have that $6,000 a month with Social Security coming in for the rest of your life. And I was up at the screen there presenting it. And I walked back to my chair. And as I was walking back, I said, hey, this is how it works. I thought it's important that you know this. I'm not going to bring it up again. Before I sat down, she's like, we are doing this. That's what we're doing. And I said, okay, right, up to you if you want. But this is, nothing's perfect. These are the cons of it, right? These are the pros of it. It's just, where does it land for you? And that's what I would say to everybody listening is educate yourself with someone you trust who's knowledgeable on it. Talk to your CPA if you want. Talk to your brother who reads the Wall Street Journal but has no other idea about how things work. Get his opinion on it, right? Go and Google it. Do all that. But then at the end, talk to somebody who actually understands it and can give you a neutral pros and cons on how this thing works. Maybe it's not for you, but the number of people that don't understand how something works and say that they don't want it because they don't understand it, it's quite shocking, right? Now for her, if she was married or she had a pension through her employer, right? Maybe she wouldn't have needed it. Probably she wouldn't have. But every situation is a little bit different. Educate yourself.
One of the great stories that I heard about annuities is that it's like, say, for instance, you're going into an operating room. They're going to do an operation on you, and they wheel you in, and before they put you out and make you count back from 10, the surgeon walks in, and he's got the gloves on, and his hands are in the air, and they bring in all the instruments that he's going to use. And he looks at 3 different plates there, and he goes, "Take those out of here. I'm not going to use that tray worth of instruments." And so the attendant goes and does that. And you go, wait a minute, you might need those right before you fall asleep. And that is really what we're talking about here is when you sit down with a financial advisor, right, you want to see all that's available. And you have all the instruments out there and talk through everything. It might not be for you. There are good stocks. There are bad stocks. There are good bonds. There are bad bonds. There are good annuities. There are bad annuities.
That's right.
Let's look at it for you and what works for you. Give Jay and the team a call at Secure Financial Management. Let's talk about your retirement. What you like, what you don't like. You know, you have a woman who hates the market and wants to look at other options. Maybe that's you. Give them a call. Let's talk through it. Here's the website where you can start. Retire210.com. That's retire210.com. Just the retire, then 210.com. And you'll see the website there. Explore a little bit about what goes on at Secure Financial Management, what their philosophy is, and make an appointment. Get a date on the calendar, and let's talk through it. It's a no-cost, no-obligation look at your retirement. You can also skip all that and just call. It's 210-985-6200. 210-985-6200. All right, so the headline reads this: millions of Americans spend decades saving for retirement only to trip over tax bills when they get to the finish line. All right, so Jay, there's a lot of different categories that our money falls into as far as taxes are concerned. We save in 401ks and IRAs. That's called pre-taxed money. We haven't paid taxes on that yet. When we take the money, that's when we pay the taxes. After-tax money, that's like your Roth, tax-free money. You've already paid the taxes on that, so you grab that. That's fine. And then taxable money, that would be your dividends and your stocks and your interest, and you sell that, you have capital gains taxes, things like that. So when you go into retirement, a lot of people are probably pretty heavy in the area of the 401k and the IRA. They have more of that than anything. Right. Should this be kind of evened out a little bit? Do we go in with a third, or how do you see that as far as the pie chart is concerned of how many of each you should have?
Yeah, well, look, it's going to be different for everybody, and it's going to be hard for a lot of people to overweight the Roth portion of it. Just because, so think about it this way, right? Even if all of your contribution goes into the Roth in a 401k, for example, your employer's contribution still going into the pre-tax, right? So it's going to build up naturally. And you know, the bigger issue with this, Randy, is what you're talking about is it's a tax issue. It's a tax management issue, really, is what we're talking about here, right? And you know, we're talking about this more on the show, and we should too, because we're doing it at a business level. You know, we still help people retire and get through that, but kind of what we're bolting onto that is what we're calling phase 2, right? Is, you know, we're helping all these people go from work life to retirement. The vast majority of them have done a wonderful job saving, and now there is these big taxable accounts. We call them qualified accounts in the industry. Essentially what we're saying there is it's money that hasn't been taxed, all right? And it's going to get taxed at some point, whether you like it or not. It's going to get taxed at some point. And let's see how good your memory is, because I asked you this question maybe a couple of months ago. Okay. Do you know how much money is out there in pre-taxed accounts, accounts that haven't been taxed yet?
I would have bet it starts with a T, trillions. I bet there's trillions out there.
Yeah, there's about 40 trillion. 40 trillion,
and
right?
Uncle Sam is wringing his hands. He can't wait.
They cannot wait, right? Because, you know, I don't know what the percentage is, but more than 50%, probably 70, 80% of that is probably boomer money, right? And boomers, sorry to tell you, you're all getting older, right? Yeah. And you know, the taxes are coming due on that one way or the other. So the government's rubbing their hands here, and we're leaning more into the tax management side of it because of all this, right? Yeah. So we've helped these people kind of through phase 1. Now it's how do you keep keep the majority of this or a good amount of this and give as legally as little as possible as you have to? This is how wrong it can go if not managed properly, right? This is the perfect example of how tax management can go wrong if not implemented in a smart way. So he's 57, his wife's similar age, 57. They're high earners, and they've got about $5 million in qualified accounts that haven't been taxed yet. And he's calling us because he said, hey, I know I'm going to have a tax issue at some point, right? We're already paying a ton of taxes now just with our income, and now I can see it coming down the road. We've got these big accounts that are going to get taxed as well. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, well, what have you done so far? And he said, well, that's why I'm calling you. Like these guys that I have right now, lovely people, like nothing bad to say about them. But the best advice I've gotten is to do a Roth conversion of 100, I can't remember if it said 100 or 150,000. I think it was 100,000. And I've done that for the last 2 years. Now, side note for, those listening, when you're doing that Roth conversion, that is just getting stacked on top of your existing income. So they're making 6 of 100,000. They're stacking 100,000 on top of that. And we said to him, what do you think about this strategy? Because I know what we think, right? What do you think? He said, well, I just don't understand how it could make sense because it's putting me in the top tax bracket. I was like, yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. We probably wouldn't be recommending that either, bud. There's got to be millions of people throughout the country that are kind of stumbling through this by themselves or with bad advice. That guy with that conversion, if it didn't put them in the top tax bracket, it's very close, right?
Have to be.
And they're losing 40% of that money by bad planning.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to anybody that the way to help yourself with taxes is to pay taxes now for later. But it is in many cases true. But boy, there's some math that goes with it too. And it's different for everybody. I know that's kind of a cop-out to say it depends, but it does. Yeah. To sit down and have that conversation. If you have a lot of your money in 401k, it should be something that you talk about. And maybe you're a good candidate, or maybe you're not, or maybe you're a candidate for just a little bit. Maybe half of your money goes there or something like that by the time you get to 73. Let's talk through it. Clear Skies Retirement is what you're listening to with Jay Kirkwood. If you want to sit down and talk to Jay about your retirement, give the team a call. Here's the number, 210-985-6200. 210-985-6200. It's a no-cost, no-obligation meeting to just really kind of get your concerns out on the table. If we find that we're a good fit, maybe we sit down at the table and really spread out the papers and go after it. 210-985-6200 or the website retire210.com. So there's something going on right now that I think is kind of interesting. Many of us, obviously, if you're listening to this show and you're interested in retirement, you lived through 2008 and you lost half your 401k. I did too. And you said to yourself, I'll never let that happen again. And then you didn't do anything. And then the market brought you back up and you go, hey, I'm back. I'm a genius. And now here you are close to retirement, and you have yourself in the same position that you did before 2008. And if another one happens, guess what? Maybe the same thing happens, but now you're in retirement. Jay, there's got to be a lot of people that you talk to that they've ridden that roller coaster. They've gone, but they didn't do anything. And now here they are, and it's really time to do something. It's time to back off on the risk. It's time to you really have to make some money moves here. Tell me about what you've seen along those lines to people when they're coming to you for the first time.
Well, this is the thing. Not doing anything back then was probably the right decision.
To let it go back up again.
Right?
Yeah.
It probably was the right decision. 2008. So what's that, 18 years? Jeez.
It's crazy that it's that long ago.
So back then, that was before I started the business. I was working at USAA back then, right? And I remember this vividly. I'll try and just make it a short story. There was a lady that I knew there who was a manager in their insurance area, and she knew I was in the investments, and kind of our job then was to kind of liaise with the other areas of the company and educate them on products and stuff. Anyway, doesn't matter. I knew her, and this has got to be March of 2009 because that's when the lows of the event, the financial crisis came in. And she's at her desk and she's like, hey, like, can you just come and talk to me for a few minutes? I said, yeah, what's going on? She's like, yeah, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like my 401k has gone from 800,000 to 400,000.
Yep, cut in half.
And I said, yeah, about that, right? And I said, yeah. I said, that sounds about right. And she said, I got everything out of the markets yesterday and I put it all in the fixed account, which is like basically a cash account, right? And I said to her, I said, hey, I'm just like, you've got to do whatever it is that makes you sleep at night. But she was about 5 or 6 years out from retirement at the time. And I said to her, you need to go back to the way you had it invested, right? If you don't, you'll never recover it. You're never going to be able to retire, or it's going to be, another 10 years before you'll be able to retire from this. And, at that point, and I wasn't being flippant about it, what's it matter now?
Yeah.
You're down to 400,000, right? Just, get back in the markets, keep contributing. She did it. And this was, sometimes people is like, what's the best part of your job? That's the best part. And I didn't have the business at the time. I was an employee. I was working at USA. That's the best part. When you can help people that are about to make disastrous decisions kind of save themselves, right?
Gotcha.
And to your point, when she retired, and I can't remember when she retired. She probably retired like 2012 or 2013 or something. That wasn't the right move at that point, right? You don't stay that way, but like her environment was different. She was working, she wasn't retired. You could almost look at it as though it was an opportunity, right? She kept contributing to the markets through her paycheck and the employer kept contributing. And so she was able to buy in at a discount, at a low, right? And this is probably the best example I could highlight for people, right? What you're really getting at is a sequence of return risk is what you're talking about here, okay? And sequence of return risk doesn't necessarily apply that much while you're working, but once you stop working and you need to convert this wealth you have saved into income for the rest of your life, it certainly matters then. Because while you're not drawing down on the account, if it goes down, you keep contributing, If history is a guide, it'll go back up, right? But if you're taking distributions from that money while it's also losing heavily, you're just doubling down on the problem, right? And this is what happened to people that retired in the early 2000s. So they call from 2000 to about 2010, somewhere in that time frame, the lost decade, right? Because if you retired in 2000, it was like 3 years of back-to-back down markets. And so you retire with your $1 million and you're down 20% and you're also taking out, 50 grand. Well, you're not down 50 grand, you're down like 750,000. And then it's down another 20% and down another 10%. You know what? You know what the end result of that is? You're going back to work.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yep. And so your idea and your thoughts about risk should probably change as you get into retirement, backing off on some of that, not giving up growth, but backing off on some of that. And when we're riding that market and we're in our 40s and 50s, it's a whole different deal. But when you get into your 60s, it's a whole different mindset. Now you're going to start taking money out instead of pushing money in. Let's have that conversation. Here is the number and here's the website for secure financial management with Jay Kirkwood. It is retire210.com. Start there. Learn more about Jay and the team. And there's a book there called Wall Street's Game that you can pick up there. You can download that. And if you come in, we'll give you a copy of that too as well. 210-985-6200 is the number. 210-985-6200. Let's get a date on a calendar and really start to put something down on paper about your retirement. Give you some confidence. Give you some security as you move through your retirement years. 210-985-6200. And remember to have this podcast delivered straight to your favorite podcast platform by hitting like, follow, or the subscribe button. Thanks again for listening to Clear Skies Retirement, and we'll see you next time.
Investment advisory services offered through investment advisory representatives at Secure Financial Management, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed are not designed nor intended to be applicable to any person's individual circumstances. It should not be considered as investment advice, nor does it constitute a recommendation that anyone engage in or refrain from a particular course of action. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate, and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Financial professionals are not licensed licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Secure Financial Management is licensed in your state, please contact their office. Secure Financial Management is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Wholesalers Insurance. Jamin J. Kirkwood, Texas Insurance License number 1421850.